US President Trump's Justice Department and FBI have reportedly concluded that they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was even murdered. Now, the administration is releasing a video in both raw and enhanced versions that it says indicates no one entered the area of the Manhattan prison, where Epstein was in fact held the night he died in 2019. Why is this significant? Why this is significant? Because the findings represent the first time Trump's administration has officially contradicted conspiracy theories about Epstein's activities and his death as well. Now, these are theories that had been pushed by the FBI's top two officials before Trump appointed them to the bureau. PM Modi delivered a powerful and focused address at the 17th BRICS summit, emphasizing urgent reforms in global governance and a united stand against terrorism. The Prime Minister called for a new multipolar world order, one that is inclusive and prioritizes the interests of the global South. Now, turning to peace and security, PM Modi condemned terrorism as humanity's greatest threat. Referencing the recent terrorist attacks in Pahalgam, he called for zero tolerance toward terrorism, emphasizing that condemning terror must be a principled stand and not just convenience. He warned against giving silent consent or even political cover to terrorists and stressed the need for consistent action worldwide. Listen into what the MEA says, followed by an on-ground report from Russia Today's Anastasia.
On the session on peace and security, Honorable Prime Minister underlined that terrorism was a grave threat facing humanity. In this context, he noted that all the leaders have condemned Pahalgam terrorist attack in strongest terms. He underlined that the Pahalgam attack, terror attack, is an onslaught on the entire humanity. He also noted that those funding, promoting and providing safe havens to terrorists must be dealt with in the harshest terms.
It's only day one of the 17th BRICS summit and the final joint declaration has been released. And of course, in light of the recent escalation between Iran and Israel, the final declaration condemns Israel's attacks on Iran and calls them a violation of international law. Of course, this is not the only conflict in the Middle East. Israel's war against Hamas has also been touched upon, with joint declarations stating that BRICS condemns Israeli attacks on Gaza and called for an immediate ceasefire and full humanitarian access. Plus, the declaration states that Gaza is an inseparable part of the Palestinian territory, reaffirming the Palestinian people have the right for self-determination. BRICS also strongly condemns all terrorism, including the terrorist attacks in India's Jammu and Kashmir earlier in April of this year, and urges justice for those responsible without linking terrorism to any religion group. BRICS also welcomes the Lebanon ceasefire and calls for sovereignty of Lebanon and Syria, and of course urges Israel to withdraw its forces from the Syrian territory without delay. Big statements have also been made today during the BRICS plenary session on peace and security. Indian Prime Minister is, of course, in attendance and gave his words during the plenary session. And Modi criticized the global institutions like the UN Security Council, stating that it lacked representation from the global South. And he also highlighted the need for a multipolar world order and reaffirmed India's commitment to contributing to BRICS and global peace efforts. So, of course, a lot of big statements from BRICS leaders and top officials and the ones in the final declaration. And it's only been day one. Big statements have been made, and we'll keep you updated as the BRICS summit unfolds.
New Delhi has achieved a key breakthrough in India's fight against cross-border terrorism. Wanted Khalistani terrorist Happy Pasya is set to be extradited from the United States to India. Now, Pasya was arrested in California's Sacramento on the 17th of April by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, after close coordination with Indian security agencies. Viewers, now declared a wanted terrorist by the NIA, Pasea faces multiple charges related to grenade attacks and assaults in police stations across Punjab between 2024 and 25. Authorities had even announced a 5 lakh reward for information leading to the dreaded terrorist capture. US President Donald Trump has announced an extra 10% tariff for any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS. Trump has announced that countries aligning with BRICS policies will be charged an additional 10% tariff, and here will be no exceptions to this policy. Trump did not, however, clarify or even expand on the anti-American policies referenced in his post. Meanwhile, Trump has also said that the US tariffs will kick in on the 1st of August if trading partners do not strike deals with Washington. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed comments by Trump to reporters about the Air Force One on Friday, in which he also cited the August 1 deadline. The much-anticipated India-US interim trade deal may miss its July 9 deadline, with talks hitting a rough patch over key unresolved issues. Now, NDTV sources indicate that no more formal rounds of negotiations are scheduled, and a deal will materialize only if the two sides are able to bridge critical gaps informally, and that too in the next few days. While both countries have been pushing for a limited mini-deal focused on good trade and tariff reductions, discussions have stalled over agriculture and dairy access, where India, in fact, is unwilling to yield ground. New Delhi has made clear that sensitive sectors like dairy and certain agri-products are off the table. Here's more.
It's very, very interesting, this development coming in. We were all wondering why a negotiation or the final closure of a trade deal is being delayed, and now commentary coming in from Donald Trump himself that it was perhaps this BRICS summit and this extra BRICS tariff that Trump is now preparing to impose, at least on BRICS countries. With this, if there are two scenarios now as we stand before this July 9 deadline scenario. One is, of course, that India is able to secure an interim trade deal. It is then there will be certain reductions on certain goods, on certain tariffs, and India will be exempted from reciprocal tariffs. But there is a second case where India is not able to reach a deal before the deadline, and then India's tariffs will revert back to the April tariffs levels, plus this additional 10% tariffs that Trump has just announced on BRICS countries, which might take up India's tariffs up to 46% starting August 1st. So those are the two scenarios. What we know currently is that 9:30 p.m. tonight is when we'll know whether and what sort of deal India has been able to crack with the US. That is something that we'll have our eyes peeled on at 9:30.
The latest round of indirect ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas have ended without a breakthrough. Now, this comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu heads to Washington to meet Donald Trump. Netanyahu said he thinks his meeting with the US president on Monday should help progress efforts to reach a deal for the release of more hostages and also a ceasefire in the besieged enclave of Gaza. He had said he had given his negotiators clear instructions to achieve a ceasefire agreement under conditions Israel has accepted. Here are Trump and Netanyahu meanwhile for you.
But we're working on a lot of things with Israel, and one of the things is probably a permanent deal with Iran. In other words, they have to give up all of the things that you know so well. The attack turned out, according to every single atomic energy commission, that was a complete and total obliteration.
Israel has attacked Houthi targets in 3 Yemeni ports in a power plant, marking the first Israeli attack on Yemen in almost 1 month. Now, the strikes on Hodeidah, Ras Issa and Salif ports and also the Ras Kantib power plant were due to repeated Houthi attacks on Israel the IDF has in fact said in a statement. Now, hours after the strikes, the Israeli military said 2 missiles were also launched from Yemen and attempts were made to intercept them, but the results of interceptions were still under review. Over in the US, flash floods in the state of Texas have killed at least 82 people and left many more missing. Now, 4 months' worth of rainfall, around 1.8 trillion gallons, that is, fell in just hours on Friday. Authorities are unsure how many people remain unaccounted for, but they include at least 10 children who were also at a summer camp. The tragedy has brought scrutiny on the National Weather Service. The agency's Central Texas offices have several critical vacancies, and while some openings may predate the current administration, the number has roughly doubled since US President Donald Trump returned to office on the 20th of January. Now, that means there are fewer people able to coordinate with local authorities, possibly also hampering the emergency response, experts have said. Here's a ground report from Texas, meanwhile.
I'm standing on the banks of the Guadalupe River in Hunt, Texas, the site of some of the worst damage to come from the floods that ripped through this area on July 4th. Behind me is Camp Mystic, a girls' camp that was devastated by a wall of water that came raging through here in the middle of the night. Dozens of young girls were swept away, many who are among the approaching 70 who have been killed in this, 21 confirmed children who have died. Out here today, what we see are families returning to this spot to look through the camp, look through the dorms, look through the cabins where their children were. They're walking through and examining piles of debris, from soaked mattresses to personal trunks. They're opening them and looking through for any kind of personal belongings that they can find. The waters are calm now, but just about a couple hundred yards away from where those families are, search and rescue efforts continue.
King Charles has called on people to stand united against those who would seek to divide us in a message marking the 20th anniversary of the 7/7 attacks in London. The king, in fact, condemned the senseless act of evil that saw bombs detonated on the capital's public transport system, killing 52 people and injuring more than 700 others, viewers. Now, the king called for a spirit of unity and said the attacks had shown the importance of building a society where people of all faiths and backgrounds can live together with mutual respect and understanding. US President Donald Trump has dismissed Elon Musk's newly launched political party, the America Party, calling the idea ridiculous and also reiterating his faith in the traditional two-party system. Now, Trump added, third parties have never worked. He can have fun with it. My colleague Parmeshwar Bawa, meanwhile, brings you all the details.
For Elon Musk, well, space, done. Electric cars, done. Buying Twitter, done. But starting a political party in the United States, well, not so fast it seems. The billionaire tech titan says he's done waiting for Washington to fix itself. And now, after a very public falling out with the US President Donald Trump, Musk has announced the launch of the America Party, saying Americans are fed up with what he calls a one-party system dressed up as democracy. Bold move, right? Absolutely. But is it as easy as it sounds? Not even close. To go from tweet to ballot, Musk will need to jump through 50 different sets of state laws, gather millions of signatures, and also navigate a maze of legal challenges, many likely funded by the same Republicans and Democrats he wants to disrupt. Let's just take California, for example. Just to be recognized, Elon Musk's party would need either 75,000 registered members or over 1 million signatures. And that's just one state in the US. Multiply that, add federal election rules, lawsuits, and deadlines, and you've got a mission far harder than launching a Falcon 9. Don't get me wrong, Musk has the money. His net worth sits above $350 billion, but building a new political party in the US isn't just expensive, it's time-consuming, and experts say it'll take years and definitely won't be ready in time for the 2026 midterms. Musk, by the way, knows this. That's why he says his party will start small, targeting a handful of congressional seats to tip the scales on key legislation. And maybe a presidential candidate later. But even then, America's two-party system is a fortress, and third parties, well, they've historically bounced off the walls. So is Musk's plan visionary or vanity, revolutionary, or just reactive to losing his EV tax breaks under Trump's new bill? Well, for now, the America Party exists mostly on social media. But if Musk is serious, he's going to need more than memes, polls, and posts. He'll need paperwork, patience, and of course, a political army.
Indian origin Vaibhav Taneja has been appointed the treasurer and custodian of records for Elon Musk's America Party. Now, Taneja serves as the chief financial officer of Tesla. In paperwork filed with the U.S. Federal Election Commission, the party confirmed his dual role in its financial and compliance operations as well. The United Arab Emirates has made its residency program more accessible to professionals across sectors. The Gulf nation has in fact introduced a new type of golden visa based on nomination, albeit with some conditions. Unlike the current practice of investing large amounts in either property or business in the country. Now, the move comes as good news for Indian nationals specifically, who make up one of the largest expat communities in the UAE. India and Bangladesh have been selected for the first phase of testing this visa. My colleague Disha Bakchi gets you more.
In a boost for Indians seeking to move to the UAE has introduced a new golden visa, which essentially will allow Indians to get lifetime residency in the country for just rupees 23 lakh. Now, previously, this visa would require Indians to invest in the country, but that is no longer a criteria, where now applicants can simply nominate themselves with this one-time fee of rupees 23 lakh. And after these applicants are vetted for their criminal record, social media behavior, anti-money laundering compliance and other such requirements, if they meet these requirements, you can get this golden visa, which essentially will allow visa holders to bring their family, hire domestic help in the country, and even run businesses in the UAE. So this is a major boost for Indian immigrants. And the company running this, leading this visa process, which is the Riyadh Group, has said that they anticipate 5,000 applicants in just the first 3 months. So quite a big demand for this visa. And India and Bangladesh are getting early access and priority access to this visa in the first phase. And in fact, what this means is this is part of essentially the India-UAE the bilateral partnership agreement that was signed in 2022. And it's really a boost for Indian immigrants seeking to move to the UAE, because this essentially means that the Indians don't have to invest in the country, which was a bit of a hurdle for those seeking to move to the UAE. But now, with just a one-time fee of rupees 23 lakh, you can get lifetime residency in the UAE.